Hey, Nick.
Hello, Warwick. Hello, listeners.
Hello, listeners.
Off air, Warwick was, I don't know, groaning at me when I said I really struggled to find a joke today. But the truth is, I have come up with some material. I don't think it's very good. Are
Let's
you
see.
ready?
I'm ready.
What do you get from a pampered cow?
No.
Spoiled milk.
My 12-year-old's going to love that one.
I thought she might. That's who I had in mind when I was doing my deep research.
All right. I'm trying to think of a segue, Coxie. You've made
I
that
don't have
hard
one
for
for you.
me.
I don't
You've
know.
made that really hard for me. I can't segue into today's guest.
Oh, I had
Maybe.
perhaps Shane could be rising to the top of the pack like the cream from the sport.
Oh, he has risen to the top. Yes. Nice work. You're stealing my... I don't even need to be here anymore.
Oh,
You
come on
just do the
now.
podcast all by yourself, Coxie. Do the jokes and the segues.
No, that won't happen.
All right, we're going to throw to our guest and welcome him to the show. Shane Moore from TradeRisk. G'day.
Hey, Warwick. Hey, Nick. How's it going?
Really well.
Very well, mate. I am very jealous of your headphones, mate, and mostly because the cord is orange.
That's the sole reason that I chose them.
I want headphones with an orange cord. That looks mint.
Hang on, let me make a note for Christmas.
Yeah.
Headphones, orange cord.
Not the joke ones either, Coxie. I want the real ones that actually work. Shane, and we're not going to talk about insurance today because you're not that good at insurance, are you?
No, I'm definitely not the insurance broker. I employ some very good insurance brokers. That's
I like it.
not my specialty.
Now, there's a segue that I can grab hold of is being a great business owner. You don't have to be good at the stuff you do. You've got to be good at running the business in that industry. So that's one of the things I like about your business, Shane. And listeners, we kind of know Shane. We've stalked him a bit and we've annoyed the crap out of him over the last few years because we like what he's doing in the tradie space. And so we thought it'd be good to get him on the podcast. We were probably sparked in this by a conversation in our client group with our tradiepreneur clients, talking about insurances and which company's best and how do I get the best deal and what sort of stuff do I need to be insured for. And I read those sorts of threads regularly and think, what are you doing? Go get a broker. And so I think people still don't realize perhaps or understand what an insurance broker really does. But I want to spoil that whole thread, Shane, and get you to tell our listeners about you. How the heck did you come to be sitting here with an orange corded pair of headphones in a swanky office as a broker, mate?
Yeah. So I started, I've always worked in financial services. I think when I just like numbers and patterns and different things. So I guess financial services just attracted me. So I spent probably about 10 years working across banking and insurance. Ended up finding myself in compliance, which a lot of people don't like compliance, but I actually quite enjoyed compliance. And I had my working in compliance, I ended up doing audits on financial advisors and insurance brokers. Discovered that there was this ability to run your own business as an insurance broker, which was quite appealing to me. And I'd also had a bit of I don't know, I guess people would call it a side hustle these days. I was quite into online marketing. So, building little websites and, trying to sell advertising or sell things. So I got to this point after, I guess, maybe, 10 years working in financial services that thinking, I think I could combine what I'd learned in online marketing, with all of the knowledge I'd picked up in insurance and financial services, and then put that together to start off my own little business. And I guess that's how TradeRisk was born. But yeah, probably, I guess as a lot of your listeners would know, starting a business is pretty easy. Actually then making it work is a whole nother story. But yeah, that's the short of it in terms of how we got started.
How long ago did TradeRisk actually kick off?
2010 it was.
Wow.
So we're just over 13 years now.
Wow.
So it's been a while. Still feels like early days, but yeah, 13 years.
I think that's something we don't talk about in business enough, is how the journey is always evolving. And I think a business that you feel safe and stagnant in is one that's on the decline. We just don't know that until, of course,
Yeah.
it becomes apparent. It's the businesses that require constant change, constant growth from you as a person, as being the business leader, constant learning. They're the ones that are continuing to on their growth path. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we're hiring more people or we're physically growing. It could, of course, mean that we are growing in our capacity for profit even, but we need to be doing that consistent learning. Shane, given that this was a new industry for you when you first started, obviously there would have been a bit of learning right at the very beginning, no doubt some study, whatnot, to get your broker's license. And then what? Like, what does the continuation of that growth and learning look like for you?
Oh, I think probably the big thing, for those first 12 months, probably first 12 to 18 months, I tried to just do everything on my own. So trying to do the generate the leads, so doing what I was doing with the online marketing, then trying to actually be the broker, do all of the quoting, giving the advice, all the rest of it. And I realized pretty quickly that it wasn't really going to work. And I think once I hit that 12 to 18 month mark, it just wasn't working at all. I wasn't making enough money to keep myself going. Thankfully my wife had a decent job and she could cover both of us. And we didn't have kids at that stage, so it was, the life was a lot more simple.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got to that point and it wasn't really working out. So I had to make that decision. Do I go back on wages, take the easy option, or trying to work out what I've gotten wrong and how to fix it? So I did end up taking a job. I went back to working for a big financial services business, and I think I lasted about 6 weeks and thought, no, I've got to go back. I've got to make this work. So I looked at what the strengths and weaknesses were and discovered that, or worked out that, I guess I was pretty good in generating the leads and building that brand, and just running the business. But I wasn't a natural insurance broker. So I had no money, but I still went out and hired a broker, pretty much just using credit cards really to try and get through. But everything started to click, I guess, once I had that first insurance broker who, I guess he was someone who actually enjoyed being an insurance broker and was good at being an insurance broker, was good at talking to the clients. I could do what I was good at. He could do what he was good at. We kind of grew from there. So I think that was a super important lesson. I kind of got a bit off topic there in terms of that, learning and developing, but that was probably the biggest learning, was the, just that importance of, going after your strengths and, and probably more importantly, knowing what your weaknesses are and actually doing something about it.
Yeah. I think there's a misconception amongst perhaps many of our listeners, I'm being presumptuous here, certainly amongst some of our clients, that you were in financial services, so clearly you know how to run a business because you've got finance skills, or they think their accountant knows how to run a business, and it's not true.
Yep.
Running a business is different to being an insurance broker or a financial planner or an accountant or solicitor or whatever. Just because you've been to uni and done some study and you wear a white collar, so to speak, doesn't actually give you business skills.
Yeah, 100%.
A lot of us are in the same boat. Gosh, I know some business coaches who don't really know how to run businesses.
Yeah.
But Shane, you said earlier about the numbers and the patterns. What are some of the patterns perhaps you've seen? You've been in business for 13 years, you've been in the industry for many more than that. What are some of the common patterns that you've observed over that time?
I think one of my interesting observation when it comes to, because we deal with, gosh, I don't know how many now. We've dealt with a lot of thousands and thousands of trade businesses over that time, and currently we have around 5,000 active clients. So we see a lot of data from trades businesses and talk to a lot of trades businesses. And one thing I really take away from it is that trades businesses will both thrive and fail regardless of where we are in the economic cycle. When things are great, we have plenty of clients calling up to cancel policies because they're going out of business. And then when times are pretty terrible, We have clients filling out their renewal declaration and their revenues doubling every year. You know, it just, there's no, and even currently with, you know, some challenges in the building industry, we're just not seeing any great change, you know, in our clients in terms of the percentage who are failing and the percentage who are succeeding. I think just so much of it comes down to, you know, the person and how good they are at running a business. Maybe not even how good they are, but even how driven they are. I think you could be amazing on the tools, or you could be amazing at running a business. But if you don't have that real drive and passion for it, neither of those things are going to get you through. Or you could probably be mediocre on the tools, mediocre at running a business, but be so motivated that you still make it work anyway. And I don't know, maybe that's where it fits in with me. I was maybe mediocre as a broker, okay at running a business, but just had that motivation and drive to want to make it work. And persistence, I think, is massive as well. It doesn't matter whether it's an insurance brokerage or a trades business or whatever else. You have to have that motivation and drive and perseverance to just keep on going.
I think it's a good point to make, that at least in your case, in your observation, Shane, and probably similar for us here, Nick's and my role as coaches with our clients, is it's not necessarily the businesses or the tradies who do things the best that get great results. It's, as you say, Shane, they're persistent, and I think consistency is a big part in it as well. You know, as long as you do a reasonably good job, you don't have to be the best trader, you don't have to be the best business operator. You just got to be pretty good, but you have to be consistent. You know, if it's fits and starts and we're on again, off again with whatever you're doing, I think that's where people fall off the wagon and they just make it hard for themselves.
Yep. Yeah, consistency is massive. And the level you need to, I mean, I guess we all, especially when you do have that motivation, you do want to operate at a high level, but there's so many people in all industries who, not even whether it's the people or it's the business, that they operate at a pretty average level. Or maybe it is that the average level is not great. You know, for us, in the early days of TradeRisk, just picking up the phone or returning calls, you know, that put us ahead of our competition because the level was just so low out there. So, you know, I guess in the trades, and probably on the technical side of the broking as well, you can't get it wrong. You can't be mediocre in the sense that you're messing things up, because I guess whether you're wiring up a house or whether you're setting up someone's insurance, you can't make mistakes. So it's not about being mediocre and make mistakes. But yeah, I think I've gone a little bit off track there.
No, it's great.
Shane, I can lead anybody off track, mate. So don't feel bad.
Yes.
It's a special talent of mine.
But I think it was the consistency, you know, part. You know, I think we were on there. So if you can just operate at a consistently good level, you know, it's no point being amazing for a couple of months and then down in the dumps for a couple of weeks. If you can just consistently operate at a good, strong level, you know, that's, you know, it gets you a long way.
That's right.
Yes.
Shane, I think there's a commonality between what you do and what I guess trades do, and that's around the sizing, not one size fits all. And I think there's this real still, and we see it in our group, and that might be one of the conversations Warwick's referencing recently, there's a temptation to just find the cheapest product or the cheapest tradie, or there's a temptation to find, you know, what looks on the surface like the best fit for someone, rather than looking a little deeper or taking your own personal situation into consideration. And I find that's, Warwick and I are big supporters of brokers, because we've both been in positions within industry to understand how poorly this can go when it does go wrong, and what kind of lifetime impact that can have on the end consumer. And I wonder, you know, I'm sure that's been a journey for you as a business owner, given that we've had so many of the big players really moving around the market in a different space in the last 5-10 years that I've been observing. Once upon a time, it was really simple. You just rang, you went with who your bank told you to initially. And then all of a sudden there's this concept of, well, hang on, that might not be covering everything that we require. And I still think there's a lot of people out there that don't know that. They don't understand what they don't know, and they don't know what questions to ask. So we're big supporters of brokers and all of our clients having conversations with the broker to ensure they have that full complex understanding. But I think as a business owner for you, that must have been quite an interesting journey from the different offerings you've had to perhaps work with throughout your time, your 13 years so far in business. And I wonder, making decisions around that, what has that looked like for you over which way you work with your clients or which way you're attracting them so that you are at least appearing to be competitive to the big players that aren't necessarily giving all of the information or the total solution, and doing what you guys do best, and that is finding those solutions specific for the clients that you're talking to.
Yeah. Price is such an important one, and it drives so much. It's funny, I'm on some of these different Facebook groups for tradies, and there'll be a photo of some terrible work, and you'll get a lot of guys jump in and say, bet they chose the cheapest quote, and get what you deserve if you take the cheapest quote. But, probably those same guys, they're doing the exact same on their insurance.
Absolutely.
As their, and I guess that's what the, I don't know, I guess in some ways the media, they're always on about, you got to, whether it's a home loan or insurance or whatever, it's about finding the cheapest rate and challenge your bank or challenge your insurance company to get you a lower rate. So I probably bought into that a little bit in the early days. So once we were, pretty well established and had a good brand, and we're getting some good traction, we guess attracted the interest of some of the insurance companies, and were approached by one in particular to build this online system together so that traders could come on and just get an instant quote through our website. They could buy the cover online, and it was all going to be really quick and easy and amazing. We're going to win more clients from it because that's what clients wanted. They wanted quick and easy and cheap. It was going to be good for us because we could save money on staff. So we went down that path because I thought that was what clients wanted. So I thought that was the best way forward. And it was good. We did win a lot of clients, won thousands of clients, through that system. And we kept it going for a few years. We started to realize over time that I just didn't think it was actually the best thing for clients. And we started to see things where, we just weren't being brokers anymore. We weren't, we certainly there was a portion of our book that was very much still that traditional insurance broker role that we were doing. But then there was this huge chunk as well of thousands of clients where there was no real communication. They could call us, of course, whenever they wanted. They could call up and ask us questions, but it was a very transactional process, a bit more like just a insurance company. There was I got one example, and it was just crazy. We had this guy, he'd bought a policy through the website just as a one-man band electrician. And each year we'd sent out the renewal, and we say on the renewal, if there's been any changes, let us know. But he would never, like a lot of those clients, they would never say anything. They'd just pay the renewal. And when we did, we wanted to start talking to more of these clients. So we spoke, our broker spoke to him, and he finally returned the call. And this policy for this single person electrician business, we spoke to him, and he was now running like an electrical labor hire business with electricians out on labor hire around the country. So he was completely and utterly, exposed. The policy wouldn't have covered him at all if something had gone wrong.
Yeah.
And we got him sorted out. One of our brokers, and I think someone from the insurer, worked a Saturday or something to make sure we got this sorted out, because I think it was discovered on a Friday afternoon. We didn't want him having to pull these people off of these jobs on the Monday morning.
Mm-hmm.
So we got it sorted out for him. His premium skyrocketed, but his revenue had skyrocketed as well. But it's just an example. Like, I'm so glad we discovered that issue, because it would have been a massive drama. For us, we'd have been fine because we ticked our compliance boxes. We told him every renewal that you've got to let us know if there's any changes, but it just felt pretty crappy. But, that's what the direct insurers do. They they put all of that responsibility back on the client. They put it all in that renewal document, that if there's any changes, you need to let us know.
Yep.
So yeah, we came up with this thing about don't DIY your business insurance, because we thought that DIY could, you get tradies to talk about, the person who goes the DIY option, they end up paying twice.
Yeah.
They pay to do it for themselves to try and work it out how to do it, and then they end up paying the professional to come in and fix it for them. So I guess we wanted to tap into that you might save some money by taking that DIY insurance option and just buying a policy direct off a website, whereas for maybe a little bit more money, sometimes no more money, but sometimes a little bit more money, they can use one of our brokers who just day in, day out specialize in helping tradies. And I think we get a much better outcome for them, especially at claim time. Most tradies will never claim on their policies, so they're not going to have to worry about it. But I think there's some value in that peace of mind, knowing that perhaps they will never have a claim, but it's nice enough they do have a claim, that there's going to be, first of all, that their policies have been set up properly. They've had the right policies recommended to them that are actually suitable for their business. It's not just some generic policy for an electrician when they're actually working on, I don't know, wind turbines or solar farms or whatever. So it's more expensive for us as a business to do it that way, because we have to hire more staff and we have to hire much more experienced staff. But it's been a positive, because now we hang on to more of those clients who are a lot more serious about their business and are growing their business. They stick with us because they know that their broker really knows what they're talking about and is there to help them. So it's a more expensive way to do business, but it's proven to be a much better way to do business. So the clients who only care about price, they tend to drop off. The clients who are really more serious about their business and growing their business, they stick with us.
I liken it a bit like to the old bank managers. Remember, we're all so young. It was when we were kids and our parents would go into the bank on a Friday afternoon and they'd get to speak to the bank manager and there'd be the open door. That it was relationship building. And I feel like a good insurance broker is much the same. I have the same insurance broker that I've had for the last 10 odd years. And he personally rings me every year and says to me, "Hey, Nick, how are you going? Has anything changed? What are you looking to do for the next 12 months? And do you have any other plans that we might need to consider?" It becomes a big collaborative conversation instead of it just being transactional. I think that's really important and a big part of what you're talking about, Shane, because we don't know what we don't know. Like I said earlier, therefore we need one of your professionals to be thinking for us almost. Otherwise we end up with these great big blind spots and a huge element of risk being involved that we don't understand until it's far, far too late. I've seen some people get into some very messy situations. I've seen houses burn down and they not be sufficiently covered, so they couldn't rebuild their home. I've seen some catastrophic events happen where the coverage hasn't been as comprehensive as you think. Doom and gloom, if you're listening, I mean it to say that way, because it's what it was like for these people. It was very hard for them to work through and find a solution long term. And a simple conversation, and yes, maybe paying a little bit more to ensure that you're covered, can fix all of that. Shane, I wonder, in your experience, have you seen some of those dreadful stories that have come about because somebody hasn't been covered?
Thankfully, not really. Not really any horror stories. We've seen a few where there's been the potential for that, where they've been, say, with a direct insurer or perhaps even with another broker, and they come to us to, I guess, they just want to get some alternative quotes at renewal time. And one of our brokers will talk to them about their business and then look at their current cover and tell them, you're not actually covered for this work you're doing at the airport. And the clients have no idea, because the client, most clients, they don't know that if they're doing work at an airport or a hospital, that's necessarily going to be excluded by their insurance. But a lot of standard policies will exclude a lot of that work that is outside of the norm. So if you're just jumping from website to website, getting those instant quotes, not really reading it, because no one really reads it. It's like when you get a new app on your phone and you get this massive long list of terms and conditions. You don't read it. You just click accept. And, the insurers put all those disclaimers on the policy. You must read and understand the product disclosure statement and the target market determination before purchasing this policy. And but I'm sure some people do, but a lot of people also wouldn't. And even if they do read it, they're fully comprehending how that's going to impact upon them. So yeah, thankfully no horror stories where I guess it's actually happened, but quite a few where you've seen the potential for that to happen, where if there would have been a claim, that they wouldn't have been covered, and thankfully we've been able to get in there and get that fixed for them.
It's a bit like a near miss on site. It's like, whew, that could have been really bad, but we dodged it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you hope that it's funny as an insurance broker, that the time when a client will best get to see the value in what we do is when they have a claim.
Yeah.
But we would never wish upon anyone, because even though the financial side of the claim is going to be covered, it's still, particularly for a big claim, it's still often going to be a traumatic experience. The financial side's going to get sorted out, but there's still that a lot of emotion and effort and energy that that can be involved, that that's not being compensated. So it's an interesting one.
Shane, you guys must see some. Well, you've dealt with thousands of tradies, and I love a good horror story. I know Nick loves true crime podcasts, so
I love them.
mate, you probably got better stories than the true crime podcast. For our listeners, because I think, and I come from the life insurance industry, which is different to where you guys sit in fire and general, as it used to be called, but general and commercial insurance. And either way, it was similar for me as a life insurance broker back in the 2000s, where I just could not get through to people the importance of having it. And in the end, I just used to share, ridiculous funny stories, because I think people could identify with that more than they could with the scare tactics that I tried to use. Because they'd be like, oh yeah, whatever, mate, you're just trying to sign up a policy. But I think they found the funny ones actually more enlightening, and perhaps cause them to think a little more. Have you guys seen some weird stuff? Or, I mean, your brokers must have come across some crazy situations.
Yes. Yeah, I put the question to the broking team this morning, and they didn't actually have anything too weird and wonderful on the trade side. So a lot of our claims on the trade side are pretty straightforward. We get plenty of injuries, or someone's broken an ankle or broken a wrist and can't work for a little while. Lots of stolen tools claims. Again, nothing too wild and interesting amongst the tool claims, and they're normally pretty straightforward. They gave me a couple of stories from their past, though, which I thought were, I guess, sort of non-tradie related, but
well, that's okay. It means we can diss on some other industries, mate.
Yeah. One that they liked was drawings of kangaroos, which threw me a little bit at the start, but it was
exactly where you're going, having had to do this myself.
Yeah. So relating to motor claims where they've hit a kangaroo while I guess we do have a lot of clients in regional areas. And on the claim form, they need to draw a little diagram of what's happened. So we get drawings of kangaroos that people have hit. So that's quite interesting. Maybe we should post some of those on the socials.
Anatomically correct kangaroos.
Yes. But yeah, I had two examples that I quite liked that they gave me. So one of them was of a bloke who, I guess he was quite a keen fisherman, and he'd had just a claim on his home insurance, and I don't know what it was, whether it was a blackout or some sort of issue, and so his freezer had shut off, and he'd put in a claim that he'd lost $4,000 worth of fish in his freezer, and the insurance company declined the claim and said, yeah, there's no way that anyone has $4,000 worth of fish in their freezer. So the bloke, he turned up unannounced at the brokerage with his $4,000 worth of fish that I guess by now had gone off because of course the whole claim. So they didn't actually tell me if that ended up or resulted in the claim being paid or not. But I guess if he could prove that he had $4,000 worth of fish, that they probably had no choice but to pay it.
I tell you what, if it was Tasmanian lobster at whatever it is, $200 a kilo down here, he might have been right.
Yes. So that was interesting. Another one I quite liked was, so we do insure a few, trades are our specialty, obviously, at TradeRisk, but we do have, I don't know, probably about 5 or 10% of our book that is non-trades that we picked up over the time. So we have a couple of hairdressers in there. So this was a claim for a hairdresser. It wasn't actually one of our clients. It was from a previous brokerage that one of the staff had worked for. And they had a stripper that tried to sue the hairdresser because they'd cut her hair too short. And the length of her hair was part of her, I don't know, part of her persona or whatever. So she tried to sue for loss of earnings, and and the cost of products to try and promote the hair to grow back faster.
That's a good dinner party story, that one.
Yeah. So the claim was declined because there was no, because it was under a public liability policy and there'd been no personal injury there. So it was not a claim. But,
I'm
an interesting one.
Disappointed that in thousands of tradies, there's been no claim for a site office in inverted commas, which actually was the family caravan or something.
Yeah. Yes. No, we're pretty. It's pretty boring, really, with the claims. They're pretty straightforward. Some of them do get a bit more complex in terms of determining who was responsible. But I think in the trades, because it is such a hands-on type of thing, like if you've done something and broken something or caused an issue or whatever, it's normally pretty straightforward that you were the one at fault. A claim that we had a really bad run of, because we insure a lot of electricians, so probably our biggest client group, and we have a lot of electricians doing solar installs. So we had a run of claims on, so they were water damage claims. So what would happen is they're up on the roof doing the install and they've damaged a tile or haven't put a tile back properly or something, and they have no idea at the time. But then, whatever, a couple of months later, there's a big downpour, water comes in, but still at that point, unless it's actually dripping through the ceiling, obviously then it's going to be noticed. But we had a few where it had dripped, I guess, just into the walls. And so even perhaps for weeks after that rain event, it still hasn't been picked up. Then the mold appears, or then the skirting starts to bulge, and they can end up being quite large claims because that water damage, over time, and it can create such issues. And all from something as basic as just not quite putting a roof tile back on properly. So and so they can end up being $100,000 claims for something that was really quite basic, and it's due to that water. That water just causes such issues. But yeah, so they're not the ones with the I guess the interesting or funny stories, but they're the certainly the ones that can result in the biggest, I guess, financial cost. But,
Now, Shane, speaking of interesting things, I'm going to out you. We didn't necessarily talk about this before we hit record, mate. You have an interesting personal hobby, let's call it.
Yeah.
And I don't even think Coxie's aware of this, mate.
I don't have
it's only because I'm such a hellish stalker. And I have known you for a few years. So, mate, what is it that you're passionate about?
I assume this is going down the path of number plates.
Yeah. I think a few of our listeners will probably find this fascinating, mate. Probably more interesting than insurance, I'm sorry to say.
Yes, yeah, probably. Number plates. Yes, I have quite a fascination with number plates, but not just any number plates. It's around Australia they're called different things. Some, like Victoria, they refer to them as heritage plates, and New South Wales it's more so numeric plates. But essentially, it's just number plates that contain only digits, and I think that probably comes into that liking numbers and patterns.
Yeah.
But they're the I could talk about this for hours. I'll try and keep it brief. But, they're essentially just the first number plates that were issued. So back in the early 1900s, they when they started issuing number plates, they just started with number one. So the first car registered was number one, the second one was number two, and so on until they got into the hundreds of thousands, and then realised that I don't know what they thought at the start. Maybe they thought there'd only ever be 100,000 cars on the road, and I think it was around. Sort of varies depending on the state, but around the 1930s and 50s, they started to realise we're going to have to introduce some letters as well to go down that alphanumeric path that we're all used to now. but yeah, I'm quite, don't know if I call it obsessed, but I have quite an interest in those early 1900s number plates that only contain digits. So
How many do you have, Shane?
what have I got? I think I've got 6 of them.
Wow.
So enough for me and the kids, and then 1 spare. So
And how close to number 1 do you have?
I've got Queensland 139.
Wow.
So that's my my lowest one. So that would have been issued, well, certainly within the first year of number plates. I'm pretty sure it would have been issued on the first day, because they issued, or in Queensland at least, they issued, I think they got up to number 8,000 something in the first year of issuing plates.
Gee whiz.
So,
And how many of those are still floating around in circulation? Oh, not, they're obviously not in circulation officially, but how many of those do you reckon are still floating around?
I don't know. It would be in the thousands. So they started most of the, well, I don't know about most of the states, but Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria, sort of around the early to mid 80s, they, by that stage, most of the plates had, I guess, had been handed back in, vehicles had been deregistered and whatever. So around the 80s, a few of the states cashed in and held auctions to re-release a lot of those old plates. So there was only probably a couple of 100 plates released by each state at that time, but then in the years after that, they released a lot more plates. So there'd be thousands of them out there now. But yeah, I think that's what makes those lower numbers more sought after. Is it? It's not that hard to go out and get a plate in that 100,000 range, but to get a low one, people like that stuff. So some people like it for the, I don't know, there's a bit of prestige and value around them now, I guess, but I probably come more so from the nerdy side. I like the history of them, and I like just having numbers on a plate for some reason. So,
Shane, do you have a favourite number?
either 1 or 8. I sort of flip flop between those 2 numbers.
Is there a reason for either or?
I think number 1, because I played fullback when I played football as a kid. So I like number 1 because that's what I had on my back for a few years.
Yeah.
Number 8, I don't know. I guess it's that infinity type thing of, that loop. I quite like that 8. So yeah. But I like, this will be quite nerdy as well with the numbers. I like my 139 plate because it's the number 1 triples to 3, and then the number 3 triples to 9. And it's the only 3-digit combination that can triple in that way. So
I like it, Shane. There'll be a lot of our fellas out there listening, really enjoying this moment in the podcast.
Like, oh, there's a bloke just like me.
Yeah. It's funny where it takes you. Like I was on the project once talking about number plates.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And what else? I think there was something else. Oh, there was a story in the Courier Mail earlier this year where they came and took some photos. But yeah, it's funny. I wish people were that interested in TradeRisk in terms of getting some media. So, but anyway, it's something different, I guess.
Well, here you are. We'll put you on the Tradies and Business podcast so you can be your media trade risk.
Yes.
We talked about trade risk first, Shane, before we talked about number plates. There you go.
Yeah, that is good.
Mate, there's a couple of things that I would like to bring up. One is, if we just loop back to the insurance stuff for a second, what makes a good broker? Obviously, everyone should choose TradeRisk, but just in case they want to go and look at some other brokers, what should they be looking for? Like, what makes a good broker?
It's probably, every broker on their website, they're going to talk about how they care about their clients and that they have a million years of experience and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's so much the stuff that you'll see on their website. I think it's the in terms of the brokers that I've employed over the years, like, we've had a lot of good ones, but then we've had a lot of crap ones as well. I think it needs to be someone, probably first and foremost, they just have to care a lot about what they do. And take a lot of pride in what they do, so that they are, they're wanting to help clients in a way that doesn't just help them to hit their sales target, but actually, that they know that they're producing good work, and that they know that they're you're actually providing a lot of value to their clients. And I think having brokers who want to be around, I guess if they're an employed broker, you know, that they're someone who's going to be working at that brokerage for years to come. So I think if you're a broker who sort of jumps from business to business every year or two, you're not going to be around to deal with the claim. So you can set up the policy and, you know, bring in that revenue, and you don't really have to worry about if they make a claim 2 years down the track and it doesn't go so well because maybe you didn't get that policy set up quite right. You know, you don't care because you're working somewhere else now.
Yep.
So I think, you know, if you're looking at, you know, a brokerage, I think there's something to be said for dealing with an individual at that office who, you know, I guess is there for the long term. Yeah, it's tricky to, you know, if you're calling around to a few brokerages, you know, you're not really asking them, you know, how long have you worked at this brokerage, and do you plan to stay there for long, and do you really care about me, or do you just care about your sales targets? Because they're all going to give you the answers you want to hear. So I don't know, it's bloody tough. The reviews is probably a good one. You know, we have, I don't know what we're up to now. I think we're up to about 1,300 online reviews. I guess people can fake reviews, but I think looking at written reviews is important, but that's tough as well. You know, there could be amazing brokers out there who they just don't ask clients for reviews. So they might not have any reviews. They might just have a handful of Google reviews that people have gone and used their own initiative to leave. But that's a tough question. You know, I can say the things that I think makes a good broker, but in terms of a trader going out and using that data to find a good broker, or using that information to find a good broker, it's pretty tough. I don't know. I guess probably part of it as well is just talking to them about your business and seeing if they, you know, if it feels like they care about your business and that they're asking the right questions about your business. Probably that's an important one, the types of questions that the broker asks.
I agree.
So I think, especially because we specialize in the trades, and because I've drummed into the brokers over so many years how important compliance is to me, that we will, you know, if a client answers a question a little bit funny, if they hesitate a little bit, or if they say something a little bit odd, instead of just trying to gloss over that and move on, you know, because as soon as you start to then push a little bit further on that as a broker, you're only creating more work for yourself. It's easier to just move on, gloss over it. Well, the client didn't actually raise that with me, so I'm just going to kick on. Whereas our brokers we might question that a little bit further. And maybe not all clients will like that. They'll think, geez, these guys make it difficult. They ask me too many questions, and they talk too much and whatever. You know, whereas this other broker didn't ask me any questions. He made it a lot easier. But in the event of a claim, you're going to wish that you went with the broker who was a lot more curious and asked more of the harder questions, rather than just let you tell the broker what they wanted to hear, which let the broker write a nice easy policy, get some easy wins on the board, move on to the next client. So yeah, maybe that's the best one. I know that takes time to talk to a few different brokers, but you probably want the broker who's going to be more inquisitive and more curious about your business. They're probably going to be the one who's going to get you the better outcome at claim time.
I like it.
But yeah, but ignore all the stuff on the website, and probably on the TradeRisk website, because they're all going to tell you what you want to hear. It'd be the same on any Tradies website, talking about their master craftsmen and that they design amazing things or do amazing work. You know, website's just a brochure, really, isn't it? To talk about how good you are.
A gossip business card.
Yeah, they're important. You know, I think like the online marketing has been so important for us, important part of our growth, but you're never going to know. I guess, again, just like a builder or tradie, you know, you're never really going to know how good they are until you actually talk to them about the project, and you know, and you can start to gauge how interested they seem to be in the project and what sort of ideas they're offering, and you know, so yeah, you have to talk to them, and you can't just do it on price. It's just you know, you might still end up with a great outcome going on price, but pretty high risk that you might not as well.
Absolutely.
Nice. Well, Shane, thank you for your time today. I didn't think we would speak this long about insurance and broking, and
I kind of didn't. We talked about lots of things.
yeah, we've covered some ground. We'll do a quick plug as well, mate. I know you mentioned this at the start. You've just put your hand in your pocket. Sounds like quite a way into your pocket, mate, to support TX. And one of our former guests, they're repeat offenders here at the Tradies in Business podcast, the boys from TradeMut and TX. This is a conversation starter. So I believe you've ponied up, mate, and put some cash in to support that organisation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'd never, had done. We've made little ad hoc donations here and there to different things, but we'd never, as a business, made a proper donation. So I was aware of the TradeMut and the TX story for a good couple of years, and this year we finally got around to making contact with them and making a donation there. So we kicked it off with a $5,000 donation, and the plan is for us to keep trying to promote TX amongst our clients as much as we can. Make sure people know that they're there if they're having a bit of a tough time and need someone to talk to, or as TX say, even if you're not having a tough time, maybe it is, it's worth just having a chat to someone, regardless, just to start to get used to talking about your mental health, before it gets to the point where you actually really need some help. So, and I love that those guys, they run quite a lean operation. So I know that that money that we put in there, it's not going to pay a bunch of back office staff and marketing and operations. It goes directly into actually providing that free counselling for tradies. So I think our amount works out at, I forget what it was. It's something like 50 or 55 hours of free counselling for tradies. So yeah, that was our little donation, kick things off, and we want to keep that going each year. So as our business keeps growing, we can continue to grow that contribution so that we can give something back to the trades, in a way that isn't just, insurance claims. Yeah.
Awesome,
so yeah, it's good.
I think there's some parallels there, Shane. Insurance is about planning ahead and protecting yourself, and I think accessing counselling early, as you say, before you think there's a problem, is a little bit similar, and get it set up beforehand, before it becomes urgent. So, well done, mate, and thanks again for your time today. It's been a great chat, mate. I'll keep an eye out for any of those rare number plates and give you a call if I spot any down here in Tassie, mate. There's probably a few floating around in barns and stuff down here, or sheds as we call them here in Australia.
Yep. I'm sure there are. Take a photo, send them through. I always love to see them.
And we should share your details too, mate. If anyone's listening and wants to check out TradeRisk, what's the best place to find you, Shane?
Yeah, the website's probably the easiest, traderisk.com.au, or just Google TradeRisk. Phone number is 1-800-808-800. And yeah, probably best don't talk to me about your insurance, because I'm not. I'll probably talk to you about number plates or something like that. But yeah, we spent a lot of time. We spent years, putting together, what I think is the best team of brokers and support staff. So they're just incredible. They're vastly more knowledgeable and experienced about business insurance than I'll ever be. So yeah, there's a great team there to talk to. So
nice, mate. Love it, Shane. Well,
yeah, thank you, Warwick. Thank you, Nicole. I really appreciate the opportunity and great to chat.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Shane.
So.